Just carry it away.
Good morning.
Great.
Morning.
Morning.
On the spot. Are you saying anything first or straight to questions?
Let me make a few comments. First, I want to start with some thank yous. The person foremost on that list has got to be my wife, Lisa, who's very understanding to accept that I am going on this adventure, starting on this adventure. Obviously, it's a big commitment of time and resources, but she's been very understanding and appreciative that it's something that is a personal dream and aspiration of mine, and she's been supportive. Also, my children, who have been very enthusiastic. I've got 4 kids, 2 in college, 2 in high school, Sam and Kate and Peter and Sophia. They're enthusiastic, even though Dad's going to be over the pond a little bit more than he used to be. Also, Geoff Brown, who is very gracious to be here and has been very gracious throughout this process. He is the consummate owner, and I consider him the first and foremost resource that we'll have going forward. Obviously, over 38 years, he's seen it all, and we'll be picking his brain on a regular basis as the slings and arrows come at us, which is undoubtedly going to occur. Also, everyone at the club has been so welcoming. We had a series of meetings yesterday. This is a great team, a great club with tremendous ability. The ideas, the brainstorming that we had yesterday, it's incredible. We've got some really dedicated and professional people that are going to be vital as we, of course, try to progress and become an even more accomplished and consistent team going forward. Other than that, let me just say I'm delighted to be here. We have vowed to be a transparent and open ownership group, and I do want to clarify that Saints in America LLC is the purchaser of Geoff's shares in the club, which is 76% of the shares of the club. There are other owners that have been owners here for decades, but we have a controlling ownership interest, and I have retained 70% of the interests in Saints in America LLC. So even though we've accepted several co-owners and minority investors into the club, we're always going to have a decisive majority owner that can make quick and important decisions without ruling by committee, as it were. That's vital. And so I didn't want there to be any ambiguity about that. The other owners will be released later this week in a statement or a letter that we'll put out. They're all very good team members, people that we can draw upon both for their expertise and their resources as we go forward. And I'm just excited, frankly, to have a lot of people coming in enthusiastically wanting to come and visit Perth and go to games and get excited and have their friends and family be excited about the club. So it's something that I always knew that we were going to do, was to have a series of minority investors who can also get along for the ride. I've been a minority investor in a football club in England, and it's been an incredible journey, and it's a very fun ownership group there, and we will replicate that and hopefully even take it up a notch here with a great group of guys. So without further ado, love to answer any questions that you have, and certainly look forward to meeting each one of you individually as we go forward.
First of all, congratulations, Adam. I guess the simplest question, why St. Johnstone? It's in a beautiful part of the world. It's got a lot of nice things, I've had some great people, but looking from the outside, if you want to challenge at the very top or grow a fan base, maybe it's not the club you would first choose. So why St John's? Why does it appeal?
I think the obvious answer is the gentleman who's sitting right next to me. When I investigated the Scottish clubs, which was my decision, was where I was most interested, because it's a great league, it's a dynamic league, it's much like the English league, and obviously it's English speaking, it's a beautiful part of the world, it's accessible, and so for all those reasons I was focused on Scotland. And once I did focus on Scotland, to see Geoff's comments about the club, the sustainability, the assets, the team that was in place, and to realize that all of that was available. It really was, I won't even call it a diamond in the rough, because it wasn't in the rough. It was obviously the best of multiple options. It was the best by far. And of course, you've added some of the insight that drove me, which is beautiful community. I mean, I was jogging on the Tay this morning. I jogged in the North Inch yesterday. I mean, this is an incredible place to be. You're so close to everything, and from Edinburgh to St. Andrews to Stirling, you can do it all in just an hour. So it's a great place for me and my family to visit. It's a great place for other owners and friends to visit. So that is a small element, but the main thing is it's just a great professional, sustainably run operation that if you can step into that, you're so far ahead of the game instead of getting into one of these clubs that has not been so well run and who, you've got ticking time bombs that are going to catch up to you. So feel good about that. Obviously, having sat down and broken bread with Geoff and Steve and many others that are involved, board members and staff members, we made the right choice, and it's really feeling like we're on the positive trajectory, and I don't have any doubts about what we've decided and what we've done.
Scottish football's seen the good and the bad of overseas investment over the last 10, 20 years. There'll be some who'll be apprehensive. What would you say to those who are concerned about someone from outside coming in and taking control of a fabulous football club?
I would have trepidation if I was a supporter after 38 years of great ownership and leadership. I think that's justified, and so I wouldn't complain about anyone having some nervousness about us stepping in. But on the contrary, on the flip side of that, I have a better background than many, in the sense that I have been very involved, in following and working with a club that has also headed in the right trajectory over the last 4 years down in England. Yes, I was only a 10% owner, but you follow things, you're involved in the decision-making, you see what's going on. Obviously, all the big decisions you're aware of and you're able to comment on. And so I think I had a good learning base. Obviously, I've had a business career, a legal career. I've been on boards of other companies. I'm still on boards of other companies. And through all of this, I think I can assist. It's not like I intend to be the day-to-day manager of the club. Stan Harris, luckily, has agreed to stay on as chairman, because I will be in America most of the time. And I don't believe that at this stage, and that may change later, that I should take on the role as chairman when I'm abroad most of the time. So I'll be over as much as I can, but I have family commitments back home, some business commitments back home. But I think on the whole, Geoff was going to turn the keys over to somebody. And I believe, despite being American, because I don't think that's a positive, but despite being American, I don't think it's a negative either, but despite being American, I think what we've done is probably a pretty good handover, because Geoff has thoroughly vetted me And so I think the fans can take some comfort in that.
On that, Geoff, why is he the right man? Because I'm sure you wouldn't have handed this club over to just anyone, given how much time and effort you put into it. So why Adam? And also, what advice have you given him to prepare him for working in Scottish football?
Well, we had communication back and forward over January, and I said to Adam at that time, the only way you're going to find out more about the club is to visit the club, which you did at the start of February, and obviously we had a data room and all information was there on the data room in the running of the football club. But to actually come here and physically see what was on the goal, look at the ground, the setup, whatever. What always bothered me was that I saw others who didn't want any real estate, and I believe that St Johnstone on the unique position where we had 22 acre of land and with enough room for training and all their pitch and whatever. I don't think there's another club in the UK has that. I just saw the uniqueness in that, and Adam accepted that. It was been quite unique.
And have you given him any advice about in terms of adapting to the idiosyncrasies of Scottish football and some of the things that can happen and all the challenges it can throw up?
Oh yeah, but the biggest challenge is you lot. I would never have had a deal if it was left to you lot. I think you should be going for some commercial lessons of how a deal is put together. It's ridiculous.
I'm impressed. Just very simply, I mean, what's in this for you? I mean, you're not just doing this off a whim, you're not just planning coming over and throwing money down a black hole, but what's in it for you, and do you intend to try and make money, get your money back and more at some point in the future?
We don't intend to lose money, but that is the historical norm on a yearly basis with football clubs in the UK. And so that has been the norm in my experience elsewhere, and that is anticipated, and both myself and other owners are certainly well schooled in that history. Do I think ultimately we'll leave the club as a much more valuable entity and operation? Absolutely. That may be 20, 30, 50 years from now. We certainly have no intention of turning over the club at any certain time. Geoff is over 80, if I may say.
Correct.
And I am 53. So if I was to have a similar vintage, we've got a long way to go at it. So we are prepared to invest in an annual basis. I certainly hope that we can continue the sustainable course that Geoff has made a regular practice at the club to not have to draw on ownership funds, because that often can end very poorly when you have structural deficits and then you have to draw on owner funds year after year. Something happens to an owner gets fed up, owner gives up, and the club heads into administration. So that's not going to happen. But we are prepared to put in money, but I think at every step of the way, and luckily Stan Harris, Roddy Grant, others at the club fully agree, we want to stay on a sustainable path. Does that mean we can have a few negatives year to year? Of course. We've had some large losses in recent years. That's going to end. And Stan's been doing a fantastic job with many others at the club, working to stem those losses to get us back to a neutral financial position on an annual basis. So that's the goal. Not necessarily to. We're certainly not going to take out dividends or try to make money on this club on a yearly basis. But if we can not kick in money, I think that's the best for the club. This community should support the club. The business community should support the club. And we should put such a good product on the field, on the pitch, that, we have people in the stands, we have commercial support, and we're able to at least break even. And not just that, but gradually increase our player budget, our facilities, our women's team, the academy over the years. And so that's the goal, gradual improvement of the revenues so that we can spend and certainly not take out from the club. On the other hand, just to reiterate, we're not going to put in a lot of money if we can help it, because that is the wrong path, and it's been proven time and time again.
So it sounds like you're here for the long haul, but have you set yourself a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 6-year plan? You often hear this in football, people having plans for certain amounts of time. I mean, you come in with a set plan by such and such a time, we want to have done this, and then we might look at what next.
Very little of that has occurred. We've made certain commitments, and I think they're limited in nature. For example, resurfacing the parking. That's a very direct and simple thing, but it's an expensive and important thing, and it's been a number one comment of fans for the last few years. So we'll be doing that. There are other items like that that are very specific that we are going to obviously be getting bids if we haven't already gotten bids for, and we're going to be moving forward with those projects in the next year or two. And there are a variety of improvements like that. I think nuts and bolts, probably the most important thing as opposed to grand schemes at this point. And then, as I've stated in my open letter to the supporters this week, I mean, our goal is to finish top 6, to be consistently competitive, obviously to go to Europe every few years, to have great cup runs and excitement, and to be a club that is competitive, in the Premiership. So that's at the central focus, but stemming out from that is all the other things you've got to do to have the budget and the facilities that make that possible. And so we're going to be making the fan experience, the supporter experience at McDermott Park, an upgraded experience, and but nothing of a 3 or 5 year plan. We want to get in. We want to get a full understanding of all the issues. We were brainstorming yesterday. There's some fantastic ideas. You're going to see some great things, but we're not making any grand promises because we don't want to disappoint folks. It'll take time, and just keep plugging away at it, and we will, I'm sure, in 5 years, if we look back, say, we've accomplished a lot.
Just a couple more from me, if I may. You know what football fans are like? They'll, from the outside looking in, they'll see a wealthy American coming over in their eyes. They'll think he's got deep pockets. His friends will probably have deep pockets. We can now look forward to lots of players coming in, and maybe the player budget getting increased. It's a measured approach from you, is it?
Yes, it has to be. I think it's that would be a possible scenario, and I know that has happened. Usually, in my study of the game, that's been a mistake, and owners who do that and they don't have immediate success have a breaking point. Even if they're super wealthy, they still have a breaking point of losses they're not willing to continue to fund. And so after 5 years or 8 years, they throw in the towel, and things go very quickly in the wrong direction. So that's not our intention. You are correct that there are a lot of resources behind the ownership group, and that is available as needed for important, I would say, structural improvements at the club that pay dividends down the line. But I wouldn't just throw money at player payroll. Then you're stuck with contracts that may or may not make sense. I think a better goal is to have a great academy, to have young people coming up. Obviously, those are very reasonably paid players by the very nature of it. Use your academy as a springboard. Obviously, you can have some player sales in the mix. Obviously, some of the great signings that we've had recently are a good example. There's been talk of Adama Sidibe, for example, getting interest from other clubs. But that's just a good example of, if you bring in a great player or you develop a great player, all of a sudden there can be resources that you can use for other priorities and additional player payroll. So that's more our model, and I think we're going to stick with that. Once again, if I and the other owners decide we're going to step up the player payroll and we don't have the commercial resource to do it, then we will kick in. We are prepared to kick in financially, but that's not the model that we're working under.
We've obviously got a few clubs in Scotland now that have got American ownership. Do you know any of the other American owners at any of the other football clubs, and did you speak to any of them before you decided to dip your toe into the Scottish market?
I do not know any of them. I have read about them, and interestingly, of course, Aberdeen's chairman is actually an Atlanta resident. But no, we haven't broken bread. I would like to, and I'll certainly reach out to him now that the deal has closed. I think all of that would have been premature until this week. But it's a phenomenon that is that makes good sense to me. Americans are dreamers. We're renowned for trying to do exceptional things, and so I think it makes sense that if they have a passion, they would try to act on that passion, even though some would say, what are you doing? This is crazy. And I've heard plenty of feedback like that. Are you sure you want to do this? But I think it makes sense, and it is likely to continue because there is a groundswell of interest in America for the UK's leagues, and obviously there are a lot of resources in America that could be brought to bear. What does that mean for the Scottish League? I think it's all positive. I think you want resources in the league because the league has to compete worldwide now more than ever. Champions League, playing in Europe. We need the Scottish clubs to do very well internationally, and that's going to be boosted and improved by having more resources in the league. So it's a slow process, but hopefully by having other investors, not just from America, but from anywhere in the world, welcomed into the league, which the SFA was very gracious in this instance and was a pleasure to work with. And I think for my money, they have made clear that they would like further investment in Scottish football. So I think they are taking the right tack, and it is a really good thing for the game.
So Johnson would be a difficult, harder club maybe to deal with for clubs in England, perhaps, that might think. You mentioned Adama Sidibe. There's maybe a perception from clubs in England that you can pick up players on the cheap in Scotland. Is it going to be harder for them to try and do that at a club like St Johnson with you and your investors at the helm? Anyone thinking of doing that, would you have a message for them?
I think it's been no change in that regard. I know Geoff is very, he can very readily say no to people. And so he is a man of principle, and obviously if a player is not getting their due or their just compensation, that is not something that has been a problem. And there's been no fire sales at St. Johnson for a long time. So I don't think there's any change there, but it's certainly the case. Just in the example of Adama, he's a dynamic, fantastic player, and he's going to be something that our supporters really want to get behind and follow. What I love about him is he gives 100% at all times when he's on the pitch. He's nearly collapsed. He has collapsed at games because he's given so much. He is a fighter, and so you're going to have to pay for that, and that's the way it's always been here. At least been here in recent memories, to my understanding. So no change on that, but we will not be allowing great players to go if we can help it. Obviously, the Demi Mitov scenario recently was something no one wanted to see happen, but we couldn't, as a contractual matter, stop that. And it's a sad thing. I've followed Dimmy at Cambridge United and at St. Johnson, and he's been a great goalie. So unfortunately, we'll have to play against him this season, even in the first game of the season. But he's a warrior and a great guy, and we'll miss him. But where we can control the situation, we certainly will prevent that unless the club is getting what it needs to properly compensate for the loss.
Geoff, a lot of talk about the future here. Just from your own point of view, it's been almost 4 decades of fantastic service to the football club. How would you sum up your emotions? Happiness, sadness, relief that you're getting away from the Scottish football coalface?
Quite emotional about it, actually. But I have to say that over the years, and I didn't hear it, it's not been done always by me. There have been a lot of people, there have been fellow directors over the years, and none of them ever got any monies for doing it. And we're talking about almost 38 years, and in that time it's never been Geoff Brown. There's always been a board of directors, and those guys deserve a bit of praise, certainly via myself.
Have you enjoyed the journey?
No. No, my wife was against it from day one. I think the first time was I went home and there was a PA lying a million bits, and I had a meeting with Lord Mansfield, and of course it was across the top of the thing, and that was it. So, but I acknowledged it. I stuck around for 37 years, but she's certainly happier.
What's your proudest moments, Geoff, over that time?
I think the proudest moment was being able to move the football club. To look at Muirton Park, and when I went into Muirton Park, we were quite surprised. One day, this deputation of people turned up, and it was the Tayside Council safety team, and they turned up and they sat down in the boardroom, the old boardroom at Muirton Park, and said, "We're here to close you." And no, I didn't know anything about it, and I said, "My God!" So we had to do a lot of work at that time. But in doing that, the situation through the planning that was going to be for one new superstore required in Perth. So that in actual fact took a fair bit of time, but it was a joy, because if you take that, St Johnstone at that time had a debt of somewhere close to £500,000, and we were looking at it and saying, well, whatever. So one way or another we managed to get into a situation where ASDA was a design and build, so they did the job, and basically gave us £300,000, and well, what we've got here is what we've got here. That was good to be able to do that.
So a good bit of business, which you've done over the years.
I think the values that we've got today actually hinges on what was done at that time.
And on the park, your proudest moments on the park? I
would say getting promoted from the second division to the first division. It was, when I took over, we were second bottom in the league, the bottom league, and on the Saturday we got beat to go bottom, and to get promotion out of there from where we were was a big step.
And you've had cup success, famously the cup double, European matches.
Yeah. No, I think by the time that I handed to son Steve, which was 2011, the situation was there that one way or another we can compete.
And, why is this man the right man to hand the club over to?
You've just heard him. And, is that no, for me, honesty has always been my policy. And if I believe that someone is honest, and in this case, I don't believe there's anybody who's more honest than Adam.
Can you deal the clubs in safe hands in the future?
I wouldn't be agreeing to sell it if I didn't believe that.
Adam, can I ask you, you mentioned Divitan Mittal and your association ownership, part ownership with Cambridge. Can we expect kind of links or more links with Cambridge going forward, do you think?
I think probably not. It's not a, as a 10% owner there, I have a very limited role, and I think it was something that both the EFL and the SFA wanted to, clarify that, this is not a joint ownership situation. This is not a coordinated ownership situation, because they want to, you can have joint ownership, you just can't have it in the UK, basically. And so they were gracious enough to allow me to move forward, both the EFL and the SFA. And but do we have connections? Absolutely. Can we talk? Sure, nothing wrong with that. And there is certainly a scenario where we'll play a friendly, or we'll talk about a player that could be loaned. It's just a simpler call to make because I have those connections. So and of course, League One in England it's a very competitive and challenging league, and there are certainly players that are that could make that leap to the Scottish Premiership. So Demi was a good example of that. Came up here and thrived, and so it's not impossible, but it's certainly not something that we are banking on.
And on the field, how committed are you to the manager, Craig Lean, and his coaching staff?
Very committed. What we've seen since they got on board, first of all, they had the task, keep us in the Premiership, and they achieved that goal. And you see what they did in the January signings. They were fantastic. Now we've got another window, and we've had some great signings. Obviously, the injury to Uche was very unfortunate, but he was a beast. He's a great athlete, and I saw him play in the EFL and was very impressed. So I think we've had great recruitment under this team of Craig and Andy and Gus, and we would expect that to continue. Obviously, they're going to have great challenges this year, like every year in the Scottish Premiership, and I think it's important that we are a club that plays 100%. I spoke about Adama's effort level, and that's what everyone's effort level, frankly, needs to be. And we need to be on the front foot. We need to make some exciting play and style for the fans. And so to the extent we didn't have the personnel for Craig and Andy to make that happen before, I think we will going forward. And so, very excited for that. Obviously, Craig has forgotten more about football than I'll ever know. And so I don't pretend to understand his level of knowledge about the game, but the simple notions that I can emphasize are effort and celebrating effort, supporting effort, and if players give 100%, we want to see them on the pitch, and if they give it all and they're spent, at 60, 70 minutes, let's get another player in there who's willing to give 100%. And I think that's the style I'd like to see, and I'm sure he will now that he's had 2 windows to get the personnel that he really wants in. And obviously that process is ongoing, but I think we'll certainly see that from this crew. I was at training yesterday. They're being run hard, and so I think we're going to have the fitness level that's needed, and we'll have the effort that's needed for success.
And have you had discussions with Craig about his player budget and the target for the season ahead?
That is the role that we have, you know. That's what we have to set as the budget. And so very much so, and working with Stan and Roddy and others at the club and Geoff, a player budget has been established. And as we all know, coaches would like to spend more. That's the nature of the business. It's always good to have another tool in your tool chest. And so, you know, that's the give and take at every club. But we have set a budget, and we intend to stick to the budget. Obviously, there's always flexibility if a tremendous opportunity comes along. And so that's you know, an ongoing discussion. I'm actually meeting with Craig and Andy today, and we'll continue that discussion. But that we know our place. I know my place, but that's certainly a key element, is having budgets and sticking to budgets.
Was he happy with the budget?
I think the budget is up, I can say, and so that's the general trajectory we want to be on, is raising it in a sustainable but modest level each year. And so if we can do that, if we can raise the budget, you know, basically at the level of inflation or higher every year, I think we're doing our job. And so I think he's pleased that it's a budget that's up, and he's also, I'm sure, desirous of more budget room and even more leverage in player signings. But we have to be sustainable and realistic, and so we will stick to our budget, and once again, unless an extraordinary opportunity presents itself.